What's up, y'all? You're listening to the Vibes of Fiction podcast. This is episode 2, and Vibes of Fiction is a blog and video series analyzing and organizing fiction. On today's episode, I want to talk about, does your character have motivation? P.S. This isn't really about fiction. Um, First of all, what is character motivation? Let's use the example of The Punisher, particularly the TV show. Why? Because I've been fucking obsessed. And did y'all see the new Daredevil Born Again trailer? Oh my god, I miss my man Matt. I did. I miss Kieran Page and them. I miss the homies. Okay, but Daredevil aside, we're talking about Frank Castle, aka the Punisher. In Frank's particular show, we get a glimpse of well actually let's go back to Daredevil. In Daredevil itself, Frank is introduced. I want to say that was like, I think that was season 2. I want to say that was season 2. I could be wrong. But Frank was introduced as like, he's the only one who could really keep up with Daredevil in hand-to-hand combat. And he even tied he even tied Daredevil up on a rooftop, straight up bullying this man. Okay, or maybe it's the other way around. It's been a minute since I've seen the show, but regardless, that moment on the rooftop was very telling because that's when we get to learn that Frank Castle was looking to avenge his family. He was running down through all the different gangs in Hell's Kitchen because his family, he had a wife, daughter, and a son. And Frank is a ex Marine. Yeah, Marine. And he worked on a top secret mission and led a top secret team that is off the record. And that was one of the last things he did while in service. And then he decided he had to call it quits because it was a secret mission going wrong. Which leads us to his family. Now that he's back at home with his family, they decide to go to the park like normal American families do. Tell me why they go to the park, and guess what happens? The park gets aired out. His family, all three of them, murdered. But he's the sole survivor. And the shootout happened because it was a sting operation. And it was cops, it was multiple gangs, all just gone haywire, trigger happy. And his family got caught up in the crossfire. Mind you, the whole incident is really, really deeper than that, but that leads into the actual Punisher show. Because in Daredevil, Frank Castle, he's motivated to find out who killed his family. Because it wasn't just as simple as all the gangs there or just the cops there, which y'all should probably go watch Daredevil and The Punisher. I hate if this is spoiling y'all. But look though, in his show, we come to find out the motivation isn't just for his family. This man has a insurmountable amount of guilt. And I mean, like, he not only feels like his family's death is his responsibility, like he caused it, he was also guilty of a bunch of other things too, because again, this is a veteran. And in real life, guilt comes with being a soldier. That's why so many veterans have mental health issues. But with that being said, he was dealing with guilt. His main motivation wasn't revenge, it was to atone. He was looking for ways to punish himself the whole entire time. he was hunting down each ladder of authority that was going to lead him to the main dude who was behind his family's annihilation. But with that being said, Frank's truth is guilt, it's atonement, is being punished, which goes into his vigilante name because he's not a superhero in any regards. Even though I like Frank, he's one of my favorite comic book, well, just Marvel characters in general. He's literally in my top three. Love him. But with that being said, okay, we need to now understand how to tell what is your character's truth. Because Frank's truth, he genuinely believed that all of this happened because of him. And Frank is very big on living by a code, but also protecting. He wanted to protect his team, he wants to protect his family, and even throughout Daredevil and The Punisher TV shows, he wants to protect Karen. He wants to protect Matt. Like, he comes into this protective role, but he's not protected. Like, while he's doing all this fighting and stuff, he's really just running away. And he's being beaten and battered the entire time as well. He's chasing different ways to punish himself and to punish the world for what has happened to just his life in general. I feel like he would have been on the same path even if his family didn't die. Interesting enough. And that's very important when it comes to characters because what looks like their motivation on the outside, there's a deeper truth that is driving them. And truth doesn't mean good or bad, right or wrong. It just means you believe it. Simple as that. You believe it to the point that it is literally shaping your reality. And it now drives every action you take because this innate truth you come back to. And you now, or characters, their storylines are driven to proving this truth to be true. They're collecting evidence with each bridge of events that take place in a plot. And newsflash, this podcast episode isn't really about characters. It's not about Frank. You are Frank. You, no matter what you want, whether it's the car, the money, the girl, whatever, you might feel motivated like, oh, I can't wait to meet my wife because, oh, who doesn't want to meet their wife? Or I need to be married by 25. Or I want to start a family or this, then the third. Yeah, that might sound like motivation, but what is the truth behind it? What is the thing that is actually driving you to believe that this should be a desire of yours in the first place? And with that being said, you need to be triggered. Okay, you don't need to be triggered, but there has to be something that leads you to your truth. It's so easy to look at fiction and break it down and to see these very deep themes within these characters and these stories, but it's really how you implement this into your life that makes you alchemize fiction. It makes a story have impact. This is how you have your blockbusters. This is how you win Oscars. This is where these things are coming from. Stories can't have that major of an impact unless it also impacts you on a soul level versus just you're only entertained. There are many things that can entertain you, but Are you willing to put $1 billion budget behind it just because you were entertained a little? You don't think that for everything. And that is how people manifest as well. It's one thing to be entertained by the general want or idea that you have of whatever you want to manifest. But when you actually manifest something, like it's literally in your reality, it's yours, this is your identity, this is your life. It don't even feel like something you manifested. It feels normal because it's yours. You have it. When that is taking place, that is you putting $1 billion budget behind a story. That is you putting everything on the line for it. This is you going beyond simple character motivation and tapping into character truth. Now, you can apply this to creating your own books, your own stories, but Vibes of Fiction isn't just about creating stories, it's the creating a personal story that's going to lead you to whatever you want. So you have to replace the character with you. And learning learning the deeper things behind the face of what you want isn't the easiest thing to do. Tapping into the subconscious mind, yes, we do it all the time, but to consciously do it, that takes time, skill. It's a skill, it takes practice. It's a lot of baggage around it, not just within the subconscious mind itself, but also you hear all the things. If you be on TikTok, YouTube, you might read the Neville Goddard books. If you're into self help, you already have all these preconceived notions that's probably holding you back from your biggest aha moment. Which is why I would say the easiest way to really get to the bottom of the truth that you have to wholeheartedly believe in to have what you want, you gotta be triggered. Because when we are triggered, your subconscious mind pops out into your conscious world. Whether that means you're arguing with somebody, somebody cut you off in traffic. Yeah, you might get angry in the moment. Okay. You might yell, you might cuss, you might scream, you might even fight. That's one thing. That's just the image of what the subconscious mind is really trying to tell you. The actual full truth, the identity of the thing that's being triggered is beneath that image, which is why you gotta alchemize the triggered mind if you want to get to whatever you need to believe to get what the fuck you want in life. I'll give you an example of this. Okay, so I'm put this into practice right now. In alchemizing the triggered mind, this is actually a practice that I'm putting together now. If you sign up for exclusive vibes, email list, free or paid newsletter, you will get first access first to this when it drops. But an example of me putting this into practice before I just give you the instructions itself. Okay, so recently within 2024, there was something I wanted to manifest. I wanted to manifest stepping into this new version of myself, this new identity. I want to have a completely different self concept, everything, because I wanted to. I have all these skills, right? Like I'm putting together this podcast. I'm an artist. I'm a writer. I'm a content creator. Um, graphic designer. Okay, you know what I'm saying? These are all a bunch of things I can do. And I'm really good at researching and collecting information and putting it in a curated way. Like, well, I guess that goes back into graphic design, but these are things that I naturally do. Okay, these are skills. Mind you, attaining skills is not the easiest thing to do if you're just trying to repetition your way into doing it. Because do you really know something if you've done it a million times but the wrong way? No. You just know the wrong thing really well. I've come to find out that shifting your identity is how you obtain a skill. Once you become the thing, you are it. Now, how's that related? Okay, since I wanted to change my identity to have this new schedule, like I wanted to make sure I was writing every day, I was drawing every day, I was making content in a more efficient way. I wanted to batch create, and then I had started my internship too. But all of this was very new in 2024. So I'm sitting here thinking, how the hell do I do all the things I'm doing all at once? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do I make this a life that makes sense versus I just have all these things to do? I'm overwhelmed. I'm either feeling really, really high or really, really low. Like, I didn't want that. I wanted to be balanced and I wanted to be making consistent progression. And the way to do that is to have a schedule for me. And schedules, beyond contrary belief, is not just you do this thing at this time. No, schedules are so. The perfect schedule for you should lead to a quantum leap. I wholeheartedly believe that. If you come up with a new schedule and you start putting it in practice and you do not change as a person, that is not what the fuck you need to be doing. But that might be an episode. Matter of fact, that might be a blog in itself. Okay. But with that being said, I had to ask myself why, because the first schedule I made, I wasn't sticking to it. Or I'll half do it and then I'll fall off. Or the things that normally don't take that long were taking me forever to do. I was spending too many hours on one thing that didn't even need all that. Like, with the new schedule, it's like I was dumbing down because that wasn't the one. What led me to the one was one morning I've had a art collection launch at the time, which you can get on my official site, and it's called Living PS23. Oh my god, I fucking love that collection so much. But I was preparing to launch it, right? And it was a art launch challenge thing I was doing too. So it's kind of at the spur of the moment, but that wasn't the issue, okay? But yeah, I wasn't sticking to my guns on the schedule. So I had to within, like I said, one morning as I was getting into the habit to best create all the content I could think of that this art collection would need. One morning when I was doing I have a practice that I do, a meditation and journaling practice, and it's fucking peak. It wasn't peak then, but it was getting there. It was such a good fucking foundation. I loved that little practice, but it has since evolved. But during that practice, I was using inner speech bubble. Okay, mind you, inner speech bubble, I use that to rewire all the fucking time. But tell me why this particular morning, I don't know what it was, but I drew a line through my paper, right? What's it called? Hot dog? Hamburger style, right? Hamburger style. So there's a top and a bottom. And the hermetic axiom, as below, as above, so below, as above, that kept coming to me. And I just was like, why would I draw a line through my paper? What does this mean? So something told me I need to write as above in the top half and as below in the bottom half. And then I drew two inner speech bubbles. One speech bubble at the top, one at the bottom, both in the middle of those halves. But I'm sitting here thinking, okay, now what? Where do we go from here? So I a question had came to me. It was actually not really a question, but it was a thought that I had, and I was like, I can't remember exactly what I said verbatim, but it was along the lines of, what? Why don't I deserve to follow the schedule? What's stopping me from being this person? Why do I feel like I'm not being another version of myself? Like this is an alien that I'm trying to tap into. What is the disconnect? But I reworded this into a I statement following inner speech bubble, which you can get. I think I'm gonna put it in the description. I don't know. I'm still on Spotify, but so I put that in the top speech bubble, and then all these thoughts just came rushing at me, and honestly, I felt like shit because these were a bunch of negative thoughts, right? But something told me I need to write them in all the negative space around the inner speech bubble, and I'm thinking, okay, this doesn't feel good, but I feel like I'm getting somewhere though. But this didn't feel like it. I'm like, yeah, these are surface level thoughts. This is my conscious mind, but what's beneath it? So then I had this really, really crazy statement that I had put in the bottom speech bubble. And it hit me like, damn, I really believe that. Like, this is the truth. This is what is holding me back. So then I wrote all the even more negative thoughts that came with that speech bubble in the negative space around it at the bottom. And now this whole paper is filled up, and I'm like, wow, who knew that this was the thing that was stopping me from doing the things I wanted to do, from being this new person? So on the back of the paper, I had this huge speech bubble that I drew. It's the only thing on the paper. And then I wrote what it would be for this truth of mine to be a new truth, to be a different statement that is the healed version of that. Like, what do I have to believe that's going to quantum leap me into being the person who can act out the schedule? And I've been changed ever since. I'm still working on a name for this process, but we're just gonna call it alchemizing the triggered mind. And yeah, I think everybody should do this because you, your body is an avatar. That is the character. You, your mind, your soul is animating this character. It's propelling it through the story of your life. But your character believes all these different stories within itself that allows it to do the things that it will or won't do. That's why you eat peanut butter every morning, like a peanut butter sandwich, versus somebody else might have a cup of coffee and a boiled egg. Like, these are the things that differentiate you from other people. And what you think may be motivating your character for a certain goal, that isn't it. Whatever the first thing that comes to your mind, I promise you that's not it. Because there's something beneath that truth that you have to lean into, that you got to be, this is you being in integrity with yourself. When people be like, oh my God, this isn't true to the character would never do that. When people are up in arms, when the latest chapter or some manga come out, they're like, oh my God, so and so would never fucking do that. This is what's happening when you just act on the conscious motivation that you think you have towards your thing. That's why you keep thinking, oh, I'm doing all the manifestation techniques, listening to the affirmations, but nothing's changing. The thing is still not here. That's because you haven't actually tapped into your truth. You're just motivating the character, but the character isn't actually living that new reality that you want, or that goal, or the obtainment, or whatever it is. So, to sum up this episode, Ecomize and Trigger Mind. This is the steps. Grab a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, hamburger style. So there's a top and there's a bottom. At the top, put an inner speech bubble of whatever you think your limiting belief is that's keeping you from the thing that you want. And when you write this down, you're going to have a bunch of things that you think of when you look at this speech bubble, and write down all those thoughts in the negative space around it. When you're done, you're probably gonna feel like shit because hey, this is you being triggered. This is you triggering yourself, not gonna lie. But this is good because now we go to the bottom half of the page. You tap into what is the belief underneath the belief. What is the truth? And you might even feel like this rips straight through you. You might get emotional. This is what you want. You need to have this breakthrough if you're gonna get the thing. This is how you actually rewire the mind. And then you write out all the negative thoughts that come to you in the negative space in the bottom half. This is you getting out all that energy. Like, now that you know the truth, is letting this emotion, you're feeling it, you're letting it go through you, and then it's out. Once it's all out on the piece of paper, in the front page is completely filled up, flip it to the back. And this is when you need to write a huge speech bubble. I mean, it needs to take up damn near the whole page. And you need to write what is the opposite of that truth. What is your new, what is the new you believe that has this thing? Don't relate it to the thing, but just in general, even if it sounds ridiculous to you, that is, this is your truth. And it don't matter. You don't ever have to show this piece of paper to anybody. You don't have to justify this is it. For example of a negative belief, one that I really worked on for 2024 was suffering will make me more worthy of acceptance. I know that's some that's some deep shit, okay. But the opposite of that could be, because I'm not gonna tell you exactly what it is, because that's a bit TMI for me. But the opposite of that can be is it's okay for me to get what I want with ease. It's okay if I enjoy versus have injury. I don't have to pay with pain to have what I want. Maybe that's it. That's the whole statement, matter of fact. I don't have to pay with pain to have what I want. That is your new truth. Okay. That's the new speech bubble, for example. And it might sound like a ridiculous statement, but other people might believe that right now. You listening to this episode, you might believe it. And it doesn't matter if it's ridiculous. This is your truth. And it's true though. You don't have to pay with pain to get what you want. No one should have to. doing the physical labor of whatever it is that you want, that's already the hard work. You don't have to do mental gymnastics on top of that. You know why? Something that I had to really understand. Nobody can see your inner work. Meaning, no matter how much you change as a person, people cannot see all the things you had to do inside to change as that person. That's why when you see a celebrity in in an interview and they're like, and they say some corny shit like, oh, you just gotta believe in yourself and blah, blah, blah. You might think that's corny, but that's because you can never actually be inside of them. You can never be them to know all the things they had to alchemize within them to be the person in that hit movie or with that hit song to be interviewed. There's no way to ever fully tell a person that and prove that you're worthy of what you want. So it's quite literally futile to try to be like, let's say, Frank Castle and go through all these things to physically punish yourself for the thing that you feel you have to do. Because he already did all the punishing within before he ever even raised his fist to somebody outside of him. So it's almost like it didn't matter. He already suffered as much as anybody could, and he's just adding insult to injury. So it's almost it just doesn't even matter. So if you believe that you have to suffer or you gotta work to the bone or all these things, it just won't really pay off because all the hard work that people don't see, that is never gonna be repaid because they can't see it. It's literally in the unseen, like only you know you, which is why you're worthy of what you want now. You don't have to prove yourself. You just have to show up and believe you're worthy of being in that space. You have to take up space. And this is already running at 30 minutes. So I'm going to close out this episode. Ask yourself, what is your character motivation? And then ask yourself again, what is the truth? And now you need a new truth. And you got to live from that. That is how you actually create belief. And I'm gonna sign out. This is Vibes of Fiction, episode 2. Does your character have motivation? P.S. This really isn't about fiction. Episodes will I want to do every Wednesday or every other Wednesday. Um, and yeah, this was CeeCee. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, here, damn near everywhere at artsy, and that's artcee.vibes. And that's pretty much on everything outside of maybe give or take Redbubble. Instead of a dot, it's an underscore. But yeah, artsy vibes everywhere. And this was Vibes of Fiction. Peace.